primarily a front-end developer, uh, and I do technical writing on the side, and that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Yes.
Um, anyways, nice to meet you, David. Anyways, so moving on. Okay. I would expect everybody should have questions that they need to answer. Well, over the course of doing the Q&A session repeatedly, there are a couple of questions that more or less we tend to always address. Okay, from I am not a developer, can I still go into technical writing? To what do I need to have on my portfolio for me to start applying for technical writing gigs? And so they're just these basic questions that more or less tend to repeat and repeat itself. So we would just address two of those questions, and then we would open the room to everybody to ask whatever question that they have with respect to technical writing. Okay, so David, do you want to, could you just go ahead to more or less answer that question of, I am not a developer. So could you mute yourself unless you are speaking? Okay, unless you have to say something, just ensure you're muted. Okay, so David, you could just go ahead to address that question of I am not a developer, or I want to go into technical writing, but I have no technical writing skill. No, I have no core tech skill. Can I go into technical writing? And the question of I am into maybe product management. As a product manager, is technical writing something I can go into? Yeah, so that's range of question. Could you more just address it before we move on? Mhm.
Okay. Excuse me, I'm a little under the weather. It's been a long day. Uh, the first question, whether you can become a technical writer without a technical foundation. My answer to that will always be the same, and it would by default be a no, uh, because there's something called content writing, which is very general, very generic. You can probably a company can hire you to write a knowledge base about the basic working of the application. You don't need any foundation to do that. They can just tell you that this is what our app does. Can you just create a blog post explaining how this thing work on the surface level? Like there's no technical requirement to that. That's content writing. But technical writing is called technical writing because it requires you to have a technical foundation to be able to succeed at it. For instance, if you were working for a company that offers a technology to developers, you would be required to write in-depth guides on how that technology works. And to do that, you would have to have that foundation. You have to understand how it works under the hood. And for you to be able to do that, you have to have a technical foundation. Say, for instance, if you were working for the company behind React, for instance, and you were asked to write a guide on a new function that was released in React, if you don't already have a technical foundation as a programmer, I'm sure you can agree that you will not be able to do that. Whereas if you were a content writer and you were asked to write the benefits of using Gray, for instance, to receive cash abroad, anybody can do that. So when you ask me if you can become a technical writer without a technical foundation, by default, my answer would always be no, because it's almost impossible to survive technical writing without the technical foundation. In short, most companies won't even hire you because if you apply to most companies, you will see their requirements. They would have technologies that they feel you should be familiar with to be able to write for them because probably that's what they focus on. So the plain answer is no, and I've given you context to why. As for being in different niches and wanting to do technical writing, the answer to that is actually you can. And why I say this is because most times when you're learning something, say uh, technical writing in general is very broad, and then there are different niches in tech, and each of those niches involve technical writing. Say if you're a product designer, if you're a UI UX designer, when you're designing something and you're stuck at something, you probably do some Googling. You always come across articles explaining how to achieve the concept that you're trying to achieve. Most of the people that wrote that article are probably designers that have technical writing skills. So they're literally writing about it so you can also understand how to achieve that goal. And that's technical writing. So if you are in any niche and you can Google whatever you're struggling with when you're learning and come across a guide that explains that to you, it means yes, you can also be a technical writer because it's a technical writer that wrote that. And that person probably has that technical foundation. Say the person is a UI UX designer, is writing about UI UX, or if it's programming related, the person is a programmer or a developer, and the person is writing about that. Or if it's cybersecurity related, the person is probably a cybersecurity specialist and they are writing about their experience or how to resolve certain things, how to crack or hack certain networks. So regardless of the niche, provided it's something that you can Google on Google and come across an article, a guide, a documentation that explains whatever you're trying to achieve, then I can assure you that you can be a technical writer in that niche. So that's my answer to that. Sokaribo, you want to add to that?
Not really. You have actually done justice to the question. Okay, so at this point, we'll just open the room to take possible questions. Okay, so if you have a question, there are two ways that you can ask. The first one is more or less for you to raise up your hand and then we call you up to ask your question. And if you are shy, you can actually just type it in the chat box and send in. Okay. So please, when you're asking your question, try as much as possible to keep it as brief as possible. The goal of this Q&A session is the duration is supposed to be for just 1 hour, and we want the 1 hour to be as valuable as possible. So keep your questions to as brief as possible. Just go straight to the point without too many background information. Okay, so we have Prosper raising up your hand. So Prosper, feel free to unmute and go ahead with your question.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. David, and thank you, thank you for this opportunity. I actually joined the Tech and Earn course last month, and I'm still on it. I've not gotten the full lesson. I'm still on the free part of it, but I my question for you to properly understand what I'm saying, I might have to give a little background information. I wanted to go into, or I plan on going into blockchain development. But on attending Twitter spaces on Web3, I found out that I had to have a prior knowledge of HTML and CSS. So I started on them, but didn't go so deep. Before I now met, or before I saw this course and registered for it, and started learning it alongside other tools. I'm not so grounded with HTML, neither have I gone into blockchain. But I have a solid background about crypto and all. So I don't know if it's possible to find technical writing jobs on crypto projects, about Web3 and all without the tech part of blockchain.
Okay. David, did you get the question?
I think so. Okay.
The question is, I don't know. Most of I attended the last Q&A. I don't if I think it was the last Twitter space that was held, and most of the questions, when this question was asked, Mr. David answered it as regards to web development. He used React JS as an instance, and I don't know if I've not heard of anyone talking about technical writing jobs for blockchain or for Web3 or for crypto. So I don't know if there are jobs like that.
Okay. There are several jobs like that. There are several platforms that do Web3 and they have openings usually for technical writing. I think I've helped a few people apply to some. If you go to the GitHub repo we provided in the course and just search for Web3, you would see one or two blogs that focuses on Web3. If you go on Google and search for Web3, in quotes, technical write for us, Web3 write for us, you would also see a lot of blogs and platforms that are focused on just Web3. And most of them even pay more than the normal rates that a technical writer would earn from just normal web development. So yes, there are several dedicated platforms for this. But the thing is, the second half of your question suggested you were asking if you would need the Web3 foundation to be able to write in these platforms, which I am certain you would, because if they accept your application, they would want you to write about Web3, how to integrate probably different wallets and platforms. So if you don't already have a blockchain knowledge, I don't see how you be able to write for them, because literally that is why they want Web3 developers, because they want people that understand the technology they work with and that they are interested in. So I don't think you can apply to these companies or platforms without a foundation in Web3 or blockchain. So I would advise you actually do learn those. But I don't see how HTML has anything to do with that. I mean, they are two different things. Is he here?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
I'm not understanding the relationship you're trying to tie. Like, who advised you to go and learn HTML?
It was a particular Twitter space. I think it was Web3 DAO, something like that. They mentioned that to do blockchain, that you have to know HTML, CSS, and Java.
Really? Well, I can't speak about things I don't have in-depth knowledge about, but I think the blockchain infrastructure is quite different from just web development. So I'm assuming, yes, if you want to do the web development aspect of it, you would have to know these things. But if you want to, yes, yes, but if you want to work on the backend part of it, people that do all these smart contracts, I don't think you need HTML and CSS. I think they have different languages. Is it not Solani? I can't remember the language, but I know there's a dedicated language for that. And it has nothing to do with HTML and CSS.
Anyways,
Unless you want to work on the front end.
Mhm.
You were saying something.
So the bottom line is for him to just ensure you make your research, and just like David explained in the beginning of this session, as far as you can check out information with respect to that thing online, then you can more or less write on it. But you have to have the foundational knowledge on whatever you want to write about. And yeah, the world is big, and the opportunities when it comes to technical writing and different spaces also massive. So all you have to do is just actively look for them. If you look for them, you're going to see them. Sometimes people may not be talking about them, does not mean that they are not there. So search for them and you would see them. Okay. So I think that answers your question. Okay, so before we take another hand up, David, could we go to the chat system and the chat box and address some of the questions there? The first one from Laravel. I started 2 weeks so far. It's pretty good, although I have questions regarding technical proposal and assignment evaluation. Laravel, that's a statement, it's not a question. So please, what is your question? From OK Samuel, how do I get technical writing internship? And David, could you address that?
Well, it depends. Sokaribo, don't we have a section for applying to jobs? Apply.
We do have a section for that. I think now it's now technical writing as a career that someone wants to do. But that's what
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. I think I have a dedicated thread on my Twitter for people that are looking to get into internships. And I believe the strategy aligned in those threads are applicable to any niche, be it technical writing or web development. But my advice would be, there are when you're doing technical writing, you're either focused on the content part of it, which is creating technical guides, white papers, and basic tutorials and how-to guides. And then there's a technical documentation aspect of it. And most often, the internships you will find are mostly focused on technical documentations, because most platforms that do technical writing, the content part of it, they don't usually do internships. They usually just hire freelance technical writers. So if you're a technical writer right now, you're not attached to any company, you're a freelancer, you can apply to any of these companies and they would accept you, and then you can pitch whatever article you want to write and make your proposal, and then they will go through it. And if they like it, they will give you the go ahead to write about it. You're a freelance technical writer. But when you're writing documentation for a company, they don't like dealing with freelancers. They would prefer either they have a contract with you, 6 months contract, 1 year contract, where you're able to work with their team, understand their technology, and then be able to create documentations around the technology. In these types of companies is where you can find internships, since it's long term. Whereas with the other content writing, it's more of contracts and freelancing. So they don't offer you internships. What they do is they just have slots. If you've written before, you have samples under your name, like 3 to 5 samples. You can apply to these companies and they would accept you as a freelancer. There is no permanent contract with them. Whereas with these other companies that are doing technical documentations, you can apply and get internship because they are looking for long-term writers. So I think you need to define your niche first. Is it a content aspect of it that you're going for, or technical documentation aspect of it? For internship, you mostly succeed with just technical documentations. I don't think, personally, I don't know of any platform that does the content aspect of it that are open to internships, since it's usually not long-term and they deal with a lot of writers. Sokaribo, you want to add to that?
That's pretty much it. Okay, so okay, Samuel, like he has said, check out the trend that he did on Twitter. It more or less shows you how to get technical internship with them various tech startup. But have it at the back of your mind that if you're looking for technical writing internship, then you're more or less doing technical writing as a career, and that focuses more on technical documentation. So that's pretty much it. Okay. So, okay, Samuel, hope that answers the question. Feel free to ask a follow-up question if you have any. Okay. Judith, what does technical documentation entails? Dave, is Cap here?
I am trying to drag him here, but he's at the party or something, so he has not gotten home yet.
Okay. All right. So what does technical documentation entails? And how do we get free resources on technical documentation? So Judith, this is what we're going to do. Okay. There is someone that's supposed to come up to join the Q&A session today, and he has lots of experience when it comes to technical documentation, and we would want him to address this question. So we would just hold this, okay? If it doesn't come on, we would address the question, but once it comes on, this is going to be the first question that he's going to handle. Dave, is that okay as well?
Yeah, I said I'm actually sending him a message right now.
Okay, that's fine. So Laravel again, based on the cost, the technical proposal is supposed to give writers a understanding about the project and something to write about. The widespread technical proposal in the course seems like it's giving a guideline of what to write about and also the writing. Also want to ask, how long does the assignment evaluation take? Based on the course, the technical writing proposal is supposed to give writers understanding about the project and something to write on. Also, Laravel, the first part is the statement. Okay, the only question I'm seeing here is how long does the assignment evaluation take? And for the assignment evaluation, it usually takes 1 to 2 weeks. 1 to 2 weeks for evaluation to come in. Have it at the back of your mind. There are over 6,000 people enrolled for this course, and 6,000 is a lot of number for us to handle. Okay, so it can take up to 3 weeks, but we always, from time to time, we always ensure that we close out all of the evaluation. So give it yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, I want to attend to that. The first comment about the technical proposal.
Okay,
and
go
I actually
ahead.
agree with her. I think I had the same problem when I joined Content Lab. Their proposals, the technical proposals, do seem like they are giving you, it's like a guideline. At the same time, it seems like it's writing it for you, which is what I thought initially when I started seeing it. But the thing is, the proposal is not yours. They discuss with companies to get an idea of what these companies are interested in, like what the exact direction they want the article to go. And then they they try as much as possible to keep guidelines, like direct points that you can use as a writer to understand the flow of the article. So in doing that, they tend to provide as much information as possible. And then looking at that information, you can mistake it for it being too much. It can seem like they've already written half the article for you, which is a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing there is that now you know exactly what you should be writing. Like if they say this is a subtopic, they will tell you to introduce the reader to this topic, tell the reader to do this, tell the reader to do this. Like they are giving you pointers that you can follow, which are very explicit. All of that is so you don't drift away from the direction of the article, because if they leave you as a writer, your creative side would probably take over and you just take the article to the direction you want to based on your own knowledge or your research. So they try to keep you in line with what their client wants. That's why it seems like they are doing some of the writing for you. But you have to provide more context to the basic information that they have given you. So that's why I say it's a good thing as a bad thing. If you're not somebody that can follow instruction, you probably deviate from where they're trying to take you. But if you're somebody that pays attention to details, it will be very easy for you since they have done most of the layouts or outline for you.
Okay. Anyway, that's
one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
And each company's technical proposal, like the way they set up their technical proposal differs. So it depends on the company. I think we gave you just an instance of the typical proposal, technical proposal, but depending on the company you work for, their proposal might look different, but usually it's similar.
Okay, that's fine. So Laravel, we hope that answers your question. If you have a follow-up question, feel free to ask. So let's go back to our people raising up hand. So Chris Awake, could you unmute and ask a question?
All right. Good evening, David. Good evening, Shotubo. I'm grateful. I just have a few questions. It's been a while I started my front-end development.
Is it just me or we have lost him?
So to some extent, can you hear me?
We lost you for a bit.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, but we lost you for a bit.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right. So, okay, yeah. So I had to spend more time learning JavaScript. So because I learned that getting grounded in the fundamentals and generally JavaScript, it will be easier for me to learn other frameworks. So I've actually done some projects, even with React frameworks, while I'm still getting grounded with JavaScript. So ever since I got the course, I took technical writing, documenting my learning more seriously. So, but the thing is, most of my articles on Hashnode, they are just on JavaScript. Some of them are maybe things like the ES6 plus features and some intermediate aspect of JavaScript. So now I have about 3 articles now well written. Most of them are in the 2,500 to 3,500 words. So I don't know. I was thinking of applying to draft.dev this week. So, but I don't know how. I've actually been trying to see their own blogs they write. I mean that I can possibly look out from and then get a topic idea from that. So my question now is, how do I really get in? Because I really want to start applying for freelancing gigs and to see if I can possibly get see where I can support myself while I'm getting better with my learnings.
How do you really get in? Can I ask what part of the course are you currently on now? Have you taken the full course?
I haven't finished the full course.
Where exactly are you right now? Have you gotten to the ending part of it?
No.
Okay, because remember the courses, yeah?
At some point I paused just to yeah, at some point I had to pause to both practice my learning and can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello?
You said at some point You had to
Yeah,
pause to practice
yeah. At
your.
some point, I intentionally paused. Yeah, at some point, I intentionally paused the course so that I can work on some coding projects and then also write some articles. But I want to. I will be resuming that this week. So I don't know if my answers will be in the section you are talking about.
Yes, it is. The course was structured in a way to cover everything you need as a foundation to your technical writing journey. So from understanding how to learn new technologies, which you'll be doing a lot as a technical writer, to things that you have to note as a technical writer, from how to write, plagiarism, and the rest of them. Why the last part of the course has to do with you earning as a technical writer. And that section was dedicated to showing you ways that you can earn as a technical writer. So I think that pass more or less addresses your question more in-depthly than we would actually give a response to right now. Okay, so take the time. Since you have taken a pause to practice your writing, yes, now you want to start earning. So you want to start earning, go back to the course and do the earning part of the course so you can get that information as well. All right. Okay. I know I'm giving you
Alright.
more, but it's pretty much it. David, do you want to add something to it?
I was actually curious why his focus was on draft.dev. So other than that, I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
If you okay, let me just throw in
I was actually thinking it would be easier for me to get a gig from them.
it's the opposite. That's why I wanted to throw in something. The
Mhm.
criteria for getting into draft.dev has kind of increased a little. Like I used to write for them a while back, and the problem with draft.dev actually is not even in getting in. Getting in is one half of the equation. After you're in, it's a problem. Okay, their process is more or less like this. You get access to their portal, their authors portal, where uh, you're able to request for any tax that description matches your experience. So you see different articles that they will suggest for you. They give you a bit of description. It's a little bit of brief about what the article should be about and the direction. If you're interested in it, you apply. A lot of people apply, and then they choose the most experienced person for the article based on their record. Say if you, as a beginner, you applied and they have somebody else that has written like over 30 high quality articles for them, they would most likely give it to the person that is most qualified. So that makes it kind of challenging for the beginner that just got on the platform to be able to get their first gig. So I have a friend that got in there and it took him almost 3 months before he finally got his first gig with them. So based on the way they select our writers for their assignments, it's kind of difficult for newbies to get assigned tasks. So I would not advise you go for them as your first choice. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but what would you suggest, please? I actually plan
Go and do the
making
end part of
application.
the course. Go to the end part of the course. There are a series of organizations that there's a list of organizations that you can apply for that has been added to the ending part of the course. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So go and do that. There is a list. You see the full list of organizations that you can apply for with respect to technical writing. Okay. Thank you, Chris. Michael, could you go ahead and ask a question?
Yeah, good afternoon. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, so my question is regarding referencing. So, uh, at what point in an article should we reference? Then, yeah. So if I'm able to get my resources from ChatGPT, how do I reference ChatGPT? Um, those are my two questions.
David, go ahead.
Reference. You won't believe this, but I've never had the need to reference any source in any of my articles because most companies don't ask for it, they don't require it. They just need you to do your research. understand whatever topic you're writing about and come write from your own understanding of it. So they are not expecting you to really quote things from other people's articles. They want you to write from your own point of view. And they're assuming the perspective that you're giving to them is fresh perspective, which is why they do plagiarism check that all of what you wrote is coming from you. So they are not expecting any reference in as everything is coming from you. In some cases, especially with draft.dev, the brief that they're going to give to you, draft.dev and content lab, sorry. The brief proposal that they're going to give to you is going to come with a few reference resource that you're supposed to use. Since they're the ones that reference those, they do not need you to reference it. Just write the article, submit it as a docs file, and that's it. There's rarely ever a time you will need to reference. At least for me, I've never experienced it. So I don't think it's priority. Just don't plagiarize.
Okay. The one more thing, please. The what about prerequisites? In some articles, I've seen prerequisites. In some, I don't see.
Okay. That depends on two things. One, if you're writing an article that is dependent on a technology, say you're writing a React application, sorry, your article is focused on a React application or a React feature, it's only natural that the person that is coming to read that article should have basic understanding of React if the article is not a beginner's guide to React. So if you're writing about server-side components in React, obviously you would need somebody to understand React's basic syntax and how to create a function, like just basic understanding of React to be able to understand what you are about to talk about. So that is just it. If your article is dependent on something, you're supposed to list it out so the reader knows that they're supposed to know this before they can flow in this article. Since you'll be talking about, you won't be explaining the foundation of that technology. So you assume that they should have a basic understanding of it. But if you're writing a generic article, say you're talking about the best front-end applications, sorry, the best front-end frameworks. See, best front-end framework is not dependent on any other technology. It's just you listing out frameworks for somebody to use. So you do not need to list any prerequisites, seen as they do not need to have any other foundation to be able to understand the article. It's just you listing out frameworks that they should pick from. So it depends on what you're writing. If it's tutorial and it's dependent on a technology, you put it as prerequisites. If it's not, and it's just a general guide, a general article, theoretical article, you won't put it. Hopefully that makes sense.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Michael. David, let's go to the chat box and take some questions before we get to Timothy. Not directly related. Hello and good evening. This is from Chinemirim Chuka. Hello and good evening, everyone. Please, if you happen to get a foreign gig, how does the payment work? As in, will our Nigerian bank account be able to receive payment? If no, how does getting paid work? Thank you.
Okay. Nope, your Nigerian bank will not work, and I don't even advise you try it, since you'll be on the losing end if the conversion was done on your behalf. But no, most companies kind of have some would require you to send them a PayPal account, a Payoneer account, or a US DOM bank account. A DOM bank account. So if you have a DOM bank account from any Nigerian bank that is in USD, which is what they need, they will just give you a form to fill, or they will request for it manually, where you provide the account number, SWIFT code, routing code, your full name, your address, and they will just deposit the money into your account in USD, and then you can go and withdraw. That's kind of stressful, and I rarely use it. What I do is I use this virtual USD bank account from companies like GeekPay, Gray, GeekPay.Africa, Gray.co, and I think Payday. But I think Payday, they're having a bit of security issues. So I would just advise you stick with either GeekPay or Gray. These companies provide USD bank account for you that you can use anywhere that is in your name. They assign the dedicated account detail to you. So any money that gets paid into that account shows up on your dashboard, and then they can convert it at the official black market rate for you on their platform. And then you put your Nigerian bank account and withdraw it directly into your account. That's what I've been using over the years. And I think that's the best means of receiving money from them. PayPal is very unreliable. They can block your account at any second. And even getting a working account that receives money with them is kind of challenging. So I would always advise you go with virtual USD bank accounts.
Okay. That's fine. So Chinemir, hope that answers the question. Next question by Edward. A foundational level of is required for you to venture into. Okay, that is a statement. Itumbong Judith. In the experience session of our resume for sites that need resume for application, how should we craft? I'm not saying what is there again. How should we craft it for those of us who only have portfolio in Ashnode and have not written any paid article? Resume for site and that needs resume for application. How should we craft it so that those of us who only have portfolio in Ashnode have not written any paid article? I don't really get
Can I?
it. David, do you understand that question? Mm-hmm.
I think he's actually the one misunderstanding things. Most of the platform you apply to will not require you to send in a resume. Like I said, you're not applying for a full role. It's most of them are freelance platforms, and they kind of have an application process where they will give you a form to fill your name, your experience, technologies you work with. So they'll just ask you some random questions to get an overview of your technical skill and then your writing ability. And then they will request for you to provide 3 links, 3, 4, 5 links, or sometimes they might even ask you for just one of your best articles that you've written. And then they will simply go and read the article and see what your writing is like. And they will judge you based on that. It's mostly based on the information you provide in that form and the samples that you've submitted. They will just do their checks on the article. I think each company has their own criteria. Some might prefer very technical articles, well structured, grammatically correct. And then once you check all of those boxes and they are in need of somebody with your skills, they will get back to you. So rarely do they need you to submit a portfolio. Whereas if you are applying for something like technical documentation that is not really very short term, it's more of permanent roles, then they would require you to send in a resume or CV.
Okay, that's fine. Hope that answers your question, Judith. Next question by Irom Ibe. Hi, good evening, everyone. Going into technical writing has made me read a lot of other technical articles to learn from the structure of other writers. How do I make my articles more intriguing and interesting to read? Because most times I see my articles as very bland. How do I find my voice? Someone mentioned storytelling in some sort, and I noticed storytelling in the Tech Write&Earn course, but finding the balance on how to integrate storytelling in my articles, why staying on course on the purpose of the article. You want to go ahead?
Very tricky question. So here's the thing. Each platform, technical writing platform, kind of have a default tune they prefer with the articles. If you go to, there's a company I write for called Sokaribo. They prefer you not making cracking jokes, or they just prefer very serious articles. They do not need you to crack jokes because they do not want some of the audience to misinterpret your jokes, knowing how sensitive our current generation is. They do not want people to misinterpret certain jokes. So don't crack jokes. Don't do this. Don't do that. Just keep your article straight and direct to the point. Whereas some companies prefer your articles to have a little bit of sense of humor. Throw in your sense of humor. Make your article as entertaining as possible and yet as informative as possible. So bottom line is it depends on the platform you're writing for, because you can't use every approach for every platform, and they will mostly tell you what you should do, how you should write your article. So I think most times you kind of get a sense of what this company wants from their requirements from you. So I think that kind of defines the voice, your storytelling approach. So there's no one answer to that question. But
Okay.
I understand the need to want to have a bit of storytelling. The thing is, okay, here is the thing. If I am a developer I am struggling with something and I Google it, you understand that, say, I am struggling with a feature and the feature is not working because I don't know how to actually use a certain feature, a certain function. And then I Google it and I come across your blog and I land on your blog. Understand my mindset. I am really in need of solution to this problem. And that's usually technical. I just need you to answer the how to do this thing. How do I do it? So in as much as having your own voice is nice, you still want to not be boring. You don't want to be boring. You don't want to beat around the bush before getting to the point. Otherwise, they might just leave your article in seconds and go look for another person's article. So I think finding the balance is what you have to do. No one person can tell you how to do it.
Mhm. That's fine. And if I'm going to add something to that, is the fact that you always have to remember that technical writing differs from other forms of writing. There are other forms of writing. You made reference to the Tech Write&Earn course. The Tech Write&Earn course is not technical writing. So that's why there is lots of storytelling for you to grab a lot of information. Okay, so understand the difference that technical writing has with other forms of writing, and that can more or less just shape all of your need to make intriguing and interesting things to read. Okay, so Iromi, we hope that answers your question. If you have a follow-up question, feel free to ask. Next question is by Adiola Badero. So the thing is, I have 3 articles published on Ashnode now, but I am wondering if it's possible to apply to jobs, even if the articles has no likes. The summary of that question is yes. David, do you want to add something to it?
Yes. When you apply to certain companies, you would notice where they ask you to submit your samples, they would say submit your published or unpublished work. So they need you to either submit something you have published on the internet or something you wrote that is just a draft somewhere. And it's obvious that if you have a draft, nobody has seen it. You're the only one. So for the fact that they are interested in drafts as well, shows that they are not interested in the visibility of the article. How many people have seen it? How many people reacted with it? How many people liked it? They just want to know your ability as a writer. Can you write? Do you have the technical skill to explain things in ways that people can understand? So those are what they primarily look out for. It's not how many people have liked this article. No, it's always about how well the person can write as a writer.
That's fine. So hope that answers your question, Adiola Badero. Next question is Henry Chibuke. What are the types of technical documents do you think a UI UX designer write? Example. Okay. Technical documents you think a UI.
There is a website called, I think, uxmastery.com also. But other than this website, again, if you have ever gotten stuck in something in your design and you had to Google and you come across any work written by somebody that explains that concept to you in your niche, that is obviously written by a technical writer. And whatever that article is about is obviously something you can also write about. So that's a practical example of a type of technical documentation that was created by a technical writer in your niche. So I think that kind of gives you a real life example of what you should look out for. This is something somebody wrote in technical, in product design, UI UX design. And since there's evidence of that, you can also do something similar to that for yourself if you're starting out as a technical writer. So I think you already have all of those examples on Google. So all you have to do is Google away.
Okay, that's fine. So Henry, that should pretty much answer your question. So let's go back to people raising up their hand. So Michael, you can go ahead to ask your question. Michael, you can unmute and ask your question. 5, 4, 3. While Michael is trying to sort out, Timothy, you can go ahead. Timothy, Michael, any of you ready? None is ready. Ebube, are you ready? Ebube, go ahead and ask the question. David, can you hear me? Let me hope it's not my network. Ebube, go ahead.
Ebube, go ahead.
Ebube, go ahead with the question. Okay, I think Ebube is not yet ready. So if you have a question, two ways to address it is either you raise up your hand and we'll call you up to ask a question, or you feel free to just type it in the chat box. Okay, so the next question, which is on the chat box, is a very weird question by Adedeji and Afolabi. Which course are you talking about, please? The truth is, there is only one criteria for you to be here, okay, for you to have access to this Q&A session, okay, and the only criteria is you are enrolled in the Tech Write&Earn course, okay, by me and David. The Tech Write&Earn course is more like a comprehensive workshop for technical writers, okay, so only people that are registered for the course received the email for the Q&A session for today. Okay, so if you're asking which course are we talking about, so it means you're one of those people that more or less you just saw a course on Twitter or on LinkedIn and you just registered for it and then you just left it. You did not do anything again. You have never even opened the course since after your registration. Okay, so that is the course that we're talking about. So everybody that is here today, you are all enrolled for the Tech Write&Earn course. And for some of you, you are using the, you registered through the free access, which gives you access to the course for 2 weeks. And for others, you registered, you have upgraded to the pro access, which gives you more time with the course, which gives you up to 6 months access to the course. Also gives you access to the technical writing community that we run. And in technical writing community, it's a community. So there are lots of engagement, there are review of your articles as well. And it's a community. Okay, so I would explain more about the course after now. So let's just address all of the questions. So the course that we're talking of, you can go back and check. Either you check any of my social media platforms, LinkedIn and Twitter, or you check David's own as well. You would see a link, you would see explanation of the course. So you remember the course that you registered for. Okay. So Timothy, to everyone, my question is basically on the trend David released the last time on getting platforms that you can write for in a different niche. So having seen some platforms, do I just go ahead and apply by sending my article to the platform? David, that's for you. David, are you here?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. There's a question.
I said, okay, I said the platform would typically direct you on what to do once you get to the application page. It's either they give you a form to fill or they ask you to send in links to your articles. So they're the ones that will decide what you should do for that application. Each company has, usually it's just to fill a form on their page and just input whatever information they require of you, give them links to your article, and they will do the vetting and get back to you.
Okay, that's fine.
That's
Hope
it.
that addresses your question, Timothy. If you have a follow-up question, feel free. You can always reach out to David via Twitter. Hello, sir. Please, what
Twitter, not on Twitter.
plagiarism? Not on Twitter. Your Twitter is crowded already. Send an email.
Very.
So, hello, sir. Please, what plagiarism checker do you use? Because I tried signing up to Tumintin. It keeps asking me for class ID. Tumintin, why are you going for Tumintin? Tumintin is majorly for schools and institutions. So they don't have they don't have an individual plan. Okay, so it's always for organizations and institutions. So you could always use Grammarly, Weebot. Those are popular tools that you can actually make use of. Do you want to add any other one, David?
Nope, nope.
Okay. Faith, what strategies do you recommend for handling conflicting feedback and revisions from multiple subjects matter experts when working on complex technical documentation projects? David, respond to that.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I think it's more of how do you handle feedback when plenty people are talking about when you've written an article and then they're giving you feedback.
Oh, yes. That's a very hectic process. How do you handle feedback? It depends. Most times the feedback kind of redirect you to whatever direction they want you to go. Say they ask you to explain something and you explain it poorly. The reviewer might come and say they don't understand what you're saying, that this thing is not clear. How about you do this? How about you do that? How about you give example? How about you add an illustration? Usually there'll be pointers in their feedback that should indicate what you should do next. They won't just come and say this is vague. They would, after they take a complaint, if there's a complaint, they would give you pointers for what you should do next. If they don't, you can actually ask. And that's the thing. Most people are usually scared of asking because you feel, we have this boss mentality in Nigeria where you feel like you're not supposed to be speaking back to your boss. But if you, in the remote setting, if you have a problem, feel free to ask whoever your colleague, whoever you're working with, whoever you're working under, they would address it. The whole point is they are also trying to work on the article so it gets delivered to their client or whoever the article should be delivered to, or they are trying to brush up the article to be in its best form before publishing it. So they are also willing to help you. So you rarely see anybody that you would ask for feedback, and if they give you that feedback and you don't know what to do, that you would ask what your next step should be, that they won't give you pointers for that. So always ask. That's one. Two, in as much as ask it is nice, some of them can be very difficult. I've worked with difficult reviewers, and sometimes you might get in tight spots where the brief might ask you to do one thing, and then you do that same thing the way they asked you to do it, and then you submit it, and they are not happy with it. They want you to do something else. If you're very certain that the new direction that they are pointing you to is not what the brief asked you, make that known. I do it. Sometimes I would write for a company, submit it, and the reviewer will be asking me to do something else that is different from what the brief required I do. And I'll bring that to their notice that, oh, this is what the brief said I should do. And I did exactly that, as you can see here. Is it that we are supposed to be taking it to a new direction? And then they would reassess what they said and what the brief said. And then sometimes they will come and be like, oh, sorry. I just realized the brief is what asked you to do this. So I should just communicate, basically.
So that should address your question, Faith. Kate Bader, what do you request from clients to help write a step-by-step article for them?
What do we require from clients?
Yeah, to help write a step-by-step article for them. I'm guessing Faith is still in chapter 1 of the course.
I will allow you to address that.
Okay. So Kate, I would recommend for you to take the course. Okay. There is a reason why I always make reference to the course, and this is because the fact that you are here is the singular. It's because of the fact that you registered for the Tech Write&Earn course. And most times we fall victim of registering for something and then we don't go ahead to take what we have registered for. The course has been structured in a way to give you all the necessary information, foundational information that you need to get started as a technical writer, up to the point of you earning. Okay, so take the course. You would get majority of the information that you need. Okay, it is not also very bulky with beating around the bush. We ensured we went straight to the point for every aspect. Okay, so take the discipline and sit down and take the course, and you would get majority of the answers that you need. There is no one-way answer to your question of requests from clients and how you help them write. Okay, so I would recommend just go back and take the course, and when you get to the right part, you would have answered your question. All right. So thank you, Kate. If you feel you have taken the course and this does not address it, feel free to still reach out to me. You can reach out to me, and then I would provide more context to it. It will be to everybody. Good evening, everyone. Please, I have been applying to some of the organizations in Tech Write&Earn course. Please, what type of article proposal, or article idea can I write to actually receive a response to the organization? Because my writing portfolio is just JavaScript projects and concepts. David, do you want to go ahead?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you read one more time?
Good evening, everyone. Please, I have been applying to some of the organizations in the Tech Write&Earn course. Please, what type of article proposal, or article ideas can I write to actually receive a response to the organization? Because my writing portfolio is just JavaScript projects and concepts.
Well, the thing is, it depends on the company. Some companies are very focused on certain things. Like I know a company that is focused on just take LogRocket, for instance, in as much as they accept every article. They mostly prefer front-end related articles because their service, the service they offer, because the whole idea of you writing for these companies and them willing to pay you is because they want people, readers, to come read your article, and then they can convert some of those readers to customers so they can sell their products to these people or get these people to use their products. So depending on whatever product that they have is what they would prefer you to write about, like around the technologies around that. So for LogRocket, for instance, their services that they allow you monitor the front end of your application. So they provide a monitoring service. So seen as their application, their service, their product is focused on the front end, it's only natural that they would prefer more front-end articles so they can convert some front-end developers to customers. But they also accept general articles. So if you are writing front-end related article and you apply to this company, you'll be on their priority list. So depending on the company you want to apply for, you should send in articles that are relating to whatever they are doing. It just makes it easier for them to accept you. There are companies that focus explicitly on just back-end technologies. If you applied as a front-end developer, they will most likely reject you because they prefer back-end. Probably their product has it's back-end focused, so they will just want more back-end articles. So it's based on the company at the end of the day.
Okay. I think that answers the question. So we can just move on from there. We have barely 15 minutes to round up. Okay. So good evening, everyone. I just want to know who reviews the articles for the paid plan and how do we send them? The community reviews
What the heck is what?
And
who is that?
And anyways, so who reviews the articles for the paid plan and how do we send them? The community reviews the articles for the paid plan. Okay. Remember when you upgrade to the pro access for the Tech Write&Earn course, you get access to the Tech Write&Earn community on WhatsApp. So there you can more or less send in the articles that you've written and get feedback from community members. Okay, so community members more or less review your articles. We are always there. We are also in the community to answer whatever question that you may ask. But it's always best for you to get feedback from a lot of people, and which is what the Pro Assets gives you access to. So community members reviews your articles and give you their own feedback. So reviews from a lot of people can go a long way instead of review from just one person. Okay, isn't community for people learning? Yes, your article is for who? Is your articles for it's human beings that are going to read your articles. So when you write the articles, what they do for you in terms of review is they more or less tell you if they actually understand what you've written. Okay, you have written an article, it is meant for people to read. Okay, so despite the communities for people learning, you always have to get feedback from if what you've written makes sense to people. How are they able to comprehend information that you have written? Okay, so but we're always there to respond and to address whatever questions that may arise at any point. Okay. You thought you'll be getting feedback from us directly. You're already getting feedback for your first two assignments from us. Okay, so for the third one, that is up to the community, but we are always there to give additional feedback when necessary. Okay. Next question by Agatha. Agatha, good evening. Please, I have written 2 articles but still unpublished because I feel it's not perfect. At what stage of writing did I know my article is good to go from publication? Lo and behold, you hear a voice from heaven saying, yes, it is ready to go live. I'm just joking. Okay, Agatha, you've written 2 articles. If you keep them unpublished, how would you know if they are good or not? Put it out there, okay, and ask for reviews and ask for feedback. It's from the feedback, from the reviews, that's when you know where to improve and what to improve upon. Okay. So David, do you want to add anything to that question?
Nope.
Okay, that's fine. So next question is from Prosper. As a technical writer positioning for jobs or gigs, what platform should one make articles on? Medium, WordPress, Ashnode, GitHub. Medium is free, Ashnode is free. WordPress is expensive. Yes, WordPress is expensive. Yes, you have to pay for hosting and domain. GitHub, you have to use GitHub static pages, which becomes more or less complex to set up. It becomes complex to set up. So if you want to do something that is easy for you and also gives you a community on its own, then Medium, Ashnode, Dev.to, those are platforms that you can more or less use. But have it at the back of your mind, Medium is majorly for general articles. So if you want to do technical, Ashnode and Dev.to more or less favors technical writing, and they help you publicize your course, and like they share your course with other potential people that can read it. So we do recommend you make use of Ashnode and Dev.to. Okay, so you hope the question and querying is a continuous thing. I will try to do the Q&A session once every month. So that's pretty much it. So how many articles should I ideally have written before I start applying? As many as you can, But the standard that we do recommend is write at least 3, but also as many as you can. Okay. In the area of artificial intelligence and automation, how do you see the role of technical? David, this question again. In the area of AI and automation, how do you see the role of technical writer evolving? Are there specific skills or areas of expertise that you believe will become increasingly important in the field? Okay, and I will add, will AI take my job as a technical writer? David?
What's the question?
The question is, in the era of AI and automation, how do you see the role of technical writers evolving? Are there specific skills or areas of expertise that you believe will become increasingly important in the field? Then I'm going to add, will AI take my job as a technical writer?
I think with AI, we'll just have more terrible writers, people that will delegate all of the responsibility of their writing to AI. Whereas AI is just supposed to be an assistant tool. For example, when you have things like writer's block and you're out of ideas, you can give it to an AI to kind of suggest things for you. If you're trying to come up with ideas for something, you can throw it at an AI. But most people kind of delegate the whole responsibility of their writing to AI. See, a company gives you an outline, you just carry the whole outline and go and dump it in one AI tool. Most times these companies can tell that these articles are not written by a human, because if you have worked with AI long enough, you would start to notice that they sound the same and they will visually have this monotonic tone. So when you send me an article that was written by an AI, right off the bat, I can tell that this was not an article that was written by a human, and most companies are familiar with that. So what I think is AI can never replace technical writers to begin with, because they use data models, which is like a database of data they have been provided. If a new technology comes out that it's not in that database, they would not be able to help you out. And that's the whole essence of technical writers, is to help out, explain things that other people can build off of. So you cannot delegate that full responsibility to AI. It has to be a human will have to probably go and play around with the technology, understand it, and be able to write about it, especially when the technology is new and the AI that exists has no data on that technology. I know ChatGPT, as of some months back, if you ask it an information that it's not in its database, to tell you that it doesn't have its access to data stopped at, I think, 2022. So it doesn't have any information on technologies that were released in 2023. I don't know if they have updated it, but I know that's how it behaved at one point. So I don't think AI can ever fully. It's still that way. So there are limits to AI basically, and even if it could be updated to keep up with current modern times, AI can never sound like a human being, and AI cannot think like a human being. So there are certain aspects of your writing that would have to be from you. It has to be innate, because the way you explain things is based on your understanding of it. So 5 people can write the same article on the same topic with the same brief, and every single person will come out sounding different, will come out with new perspectives. Whereas if you drop 5 AIs and dump that brief in all of these AIs, most times all of them will come out sounding the same, going the same direction. So I think that answers the question. AI can be used as an assistant tool. It can never replace technical writers. And I would always advise you don't over rely on it, because I've come to realize that it actually makes you dumber. It starts to think for you, especially when you're dedicating all of your workload to it.
Anyways, that's pretty much it. So the next series of questions, yeah?
I think Cap said he's ready to come on. So let me see if I can bring you.
Okay, that's fine. So while that is ongoing, the next question has to do with access and upgrade to the pro access community, from how much to upgrade to how much does the upgrade cost to ask the course expired. Who is that? Please mute yourself. Please mute yourself. Okay. Chinaza. Foolish people. Anyways, so how much to upgrade to the pro access? So the pro access upgrade is 5,000 naira. Okay, so it's 5,000 naira. Should I put only? A bank requires for you to put only. So it's 5,000 naira only. Okay, no additional to it. So 5,000 naira only. And what that gives you access to is you have more time to take the course. The free access only gives you 2 weeks to take all of the course. So, but when you upgrade for just 5,000 naira, you have a longer access to the course for 6 months. You also have access to our technical writers community, which more or less contains is made up of people that are also taking the course and have this passion for technical writers. So you're in a community of technical writers, and all of you are trying to you're sharing ideas, and you are just with people that all of you are just growing together. And also, since it's a community, we tend to more pass, they get access to information faster. Okay, so they get access to information more faster. If we have to pass information to everybody, we have to send an email. But if you're passing information to the community, it just takes bring up the phone and send a WhatsApp message. And everybody in the community more or less gets it. And also, recently, we started something which is meant to help community members to bond more, connect more, and hold each other accountable. Because there's always this dilemma of, okay, this course is trending, I register for it, but after I registered, I do not do it again. So of recent, we started this bi-weekly meetings whereby people in the community can get to have breakout rooms. So we have a virtual meeting like this, but now in breakout rooms of 4 or 5 people, and they get to introduce themselves, talk to one another, discuss what their progress with the course has been so far, and make commitments together. Okay, so those are the things that you get by upgrading to the Pro access. Okay, so it's just 5,000 naira. I would drop the link if you want to upgrade. If you check the chat box, you would see 2 links, either using the Flocktawave or the Paystack. You can use any of that to upgrade to the Pro access. Okay, so, and if you're already taking the free access and you want to upgrade to the Pro access, your progress with the course is saved, so you don't need to start all over again. Okay, so wherever you stop with your free access, you can continue with that progress when you upgrade. Okay, so that's it for that question. Cap, welcome to our chief Cap. Is he here, David? I think I admitted him in. Don't know if he's in already. So how do you get access to the community? So that's the same way you get access to the community when you upgrade. My access to the course has expired. I can't
Okay,
do my
I've seen him.
yeah. So upgrade and then you'll be able to see your score. And so remember earlier on when the question of the documentation came up, and we mentioned the fact that we'll be having a guest come up today, and he has lots of experience when it comes to technical documentation. Okay, so he's here. I don't know if he's ready to come up and more or less just say hi before we direct the question to him. So Cap, if you're here, could you just unmute and just say hi and more or less a brief introduction of yourself before we throw all the documentation questions to you?
All right. Hello, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Solomon Eseme. I am a software engineer first, but now I do more technical writing, documentation. So since this is just to say hi, I will just go back now and wait for the question.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks for being here, Cap. Thanks for being here, Solomon. I'm not used to calling you Cap. Anyways, that's the Twitter handle, Kapaski, and cap.ts. So thanks for coming on board to more or less address questions that has to do with technical documentation. Okay, so we had a question earlier on. Let me look for that question. I think it was from Judith, which pretty much just say, now the goal of this sessions is Q&A, which is basically to just take questions from our community members and give them answers to their questions with respect to technical writing. So that's the goal of this session. So this question from Judith is pretty much asking, what does technical documentation entails, and how do we get free resources on technical documentation?
Nice. First, let me talk about technical documentation first. It's basically a different kind of technical writing, right? So it is under the umbrella of technical writing. But in this time, you're not writing one single article and getting it published. No, you're not doing that. So this time, you're kind of looking at the product or a service or a process, and then you're documenting it. Okay. So if you go through the route of saying, okay, API documentation, that simply means that you have a team of engineers that have developed an API. And then for this API to be out there, to become public, you basically have to write documentation or information more about that API, how to use it, the different endpoints that are available, and the different parameters you need to use to call different endpoints. So while you do this, you are basically doing API documentation. Now you could do this in you could do this and then maybe not publish it or not put it out there for people to use. But if you publish it online, it becomes API documentation where people can go and understand basically about the API that they want to make use of. Okay, so that is API documentation. Now, still under documentation, there are different types. So we have developer portals. So developer portals is like a website where you can go and see different information about public APIs. All right. So this time, it is more like a blog or a website. But API documentation itself is strictly about documenting the API. So you can use tools such as Postman, Swagger, Redux, all this to document APIs. Okay, that's what documentation entails. And then resources for documentation. There's one video that I'm currently seeing. So maybe I could basically share the link through the organizers and they will send it to you guys. And also you can go around the Write&Doc community. They have a section for API documentation. You can also go through I would rather be writing. So it's a website. Just type I would rather be writing. They have a very nice section for API documentation. All right.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you so much, Cap. So Judith, I hope that answers your question. So if anyone has any question with respect to technical documentation, Cap is here to address all of them. So feel free to just type them and we would address them. Okay. So while we wait for questions on technical documentation, Chris and John, you have your hand up. So Chris, could you unmute and ask a question? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Sorry, I think my question has been answered. I forgot to put down my hand.
All right, that's fine. John, go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello? I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
I'm audible. All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So, I have access to I have access to the course, and all this while it's been a lonely stuff. So I don't have access to the community. So I'm wondering how I get access to the community since I've not gotten access to the community actually.
Anyways, that's fine. If you have upgraded to Pro Access and you don't have access to the community, just send an email, okay, to the email address that always sends you an email. So send an email stating the fact that you don't have access to the community, and access to the community will be shared to you via the email.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Okay, so we still have a lot of questions, and we're supposed to be rounding up about now. So before we round up, Cap, is it possible for you to just do just a quick one? Technical documentation. Is technical.
Let him introduce himself. We don't know him.
Ayaka, please introduce yourself. And in the course of introducing yourself, do a brief talk with respect to technical documentation and the opportunities in technical documentation. Okay, yeah.
How to get started and, basically all of that.
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I think I've done the introduction, but I think I will go again. My name is Solomon Eseme. I am a software engineer. I am also a content creator. I am also a technical writer, but now I do a lot more of documentation. Okay. I'm also into indie hacking, that is building different type of softwares and trying to scale them. So I currently have Contenta. Contenta is a portfolio management system for technical writers. I also have Mastering Backend, where you can learn backend engineering. Okay, that's a bit about me. And yeah, so documentation as you guys requested, is basically under technical writing. So if you are doing technical documentation, you are still under technical writing. But this time, you are really not writing single articles and publishing them. So it is not like a blog post that we write a single article and then we publish. It is more like a collection of different articles that summarizes or documents a particular process. So the process could be anything. The process could be an API, or it could be a developer portal, or it could be knowledge centers or help centers. I don't know if you guys know about all this. All right. So whatever you are documenting in a collection, you could simply call it what? Documentation. So picking one, let's talk about technical API documentation. How can you start with technical API documentation, since that is very popular? So number one way to start is to have it in your mind that this is what you want to do, right? And then you start looking for resources around that area. So one thing that really helped me is I looked for public APIs online. So we have public API that talks about photos, that talks about restaurants. Just search public APIs, and then you try to understand these APIs, test them out, and then try to also write about these APIs, right? The different endpoints. Normally, don't build any documentation for now. Just write about it the way you write a blog post. Each resources in APIs, resources can have a collection of different endpoints. So each resources, you talk about what it does, you explain all the APIs that is there, and all the parameters you need to basically run these different APIs. So explain everything, and then when you're done, you now put it into a website, right? So put it into a website, have different pages that summarizes different resources. And then when you're done, at this moment, you already have a developer portal, because somebody can come to your website and be able to understand what this API does. Now, for you to really, really document an API, like I mentioned before, there are tools like Postman. So Postman helps you to test the API, it helps you to mock the API, and then it also helps you to document the API. So you can try learning how to use Postman, or again, a very popular tool, you can try learning how to use Swagger. So Swagger is in two ways. You can either use the drag and drop approach, which is very nice, or you can use the coding approach, where you have to put in lines of code in your own code and then automatically just generate the documentation out of it. So this simple way can help you get started. And once you are done with this, you now have an idea what API documentation is all about. You can then go into looking for more advanced resources that will help you shape your journey. Okay, so this is what I have in terms of getting started with documentation. For me, I just jump into it because one, I already know how to write. So I'm already into technical writing. I already know how to explain technical stuff. So I just I pick one public API, I try to document it. And then when I was done, I convert it to Markdown and then convert it to a website. And yeah, the rest is history.
Okay. Thank you so much, Cap, for that detailed introduction and brief with respect to technical documentation. So feel free to reach out to Cap if you have any question with respect to technical documentation. His Twitter handle is cap.ts, right? I'm correct, right?
Pasty Guru. I just search me cap.ts. I think that's on it, but the handle is.
Okay, I'll just copy the handle and then drop, or David, you could do that. Okay, so thank you so much. So if you have any question, feel free to more or less reach out to him. Yeah, he's going to respond to you. Okay. But also you can ask one question with respect to it on this session right now. So we still have a couple of questions to answer, but time is not on our end. The time is 19:30 39. David, can we extend till 8 o'clock and just address all of these questions? And we know we are done. Is that okay for you, David?
Che, you be the one talking.
Okay, I think majority of the questions are things I have to address. Okay, so let's see how that goes. Okay, well, we'll just try to keep it.
I'm here to support.
Okay, so I'm going from, we have attended to wrote to me question. The next question is from ITEL AC6. Good evening, I have taken and completed the course. However, I feel like in the course there isn't enough sample work from you guys. I mean, times I wonder if my writing was in correct format. And that's why you have the internet. So you can always search for examples on samples. Okay, we gave you, it's
Can I say something?
Yes, you can. Mhm.
So the thing with our course is it's like a Kickstarter guide. It's not, it's in-depth to an extent, but say there's a Google technical writing course that would take you around 8 months, 6 months, 8 months to go through the course. That was not what we're going for. I would advise after taking this course, when you have the time while you're working, you should go and take that to get in-depth knowledge on technical writing. Ours is more of a Kickstarter guide that is as in-depth as it needs to get you started. Like the goal was to just get you through technical writing and get you earning. But you still have to go and build your capacity in technical writing. So I would always advise to go and take a detailed technical writing course, like that Google technical writing course. But unfortunately, that course will take you no less than 6 months to finish. So I would advise you take that on the side while you're also working. Sokaribo, sorry, you can continue.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, so do your own research as well if you need more samples. And like David has suggested, you can always check out the Google Technical Writing course. But I think there's an application process that they have to go through. I think it's only the initial part that is accessible to everybody, or the 6 month, 8 months part, they have to apply for it. I don't know, but check it out and see. Okay. Or there's room for your own research. Okay. So that answers that question. Also, if you're part of the community, you would see lots of samples from people that are actually writing. Where's that noise coming from? David. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Noise from your background.
Ooh,
Please,
sorry.
I didn't get the third kidney you mentioned. Okay, so I mentioned Ashnode. The last one that you should be wanting to get is dev.to. Dev.to. Okay, so that's the last one. Have you subscribed to Partners Program? Reader support. Okay. The next question from Wisdom. Good evening, everybody. I just want to know who reviews the articles. Okay, that's something that we have addressed already. Any feedback? We have addressed Judith's question. So I didn't get the third web that has been addressed. Opinion. Since this course, I have been addicted to the career pages of every website I visited and sometimes admire and hate docs of companies. That's my own opinion too. From users to everybody, I want access to the breakout room. Send an email and you will have access to the WhatsApp community, which gives you access to the breakout sessions. Is there any type of gig required you to use specific software like Adobe FrameMaker, Madcap, etc.? I think when it comes to all of these tools, they're majorly used for technical documentations, correct? Capital TS. I know I've made use of Adobe FrameMaker, but it was majorly for a technical documentation. Are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here, but
anyways, so Adobe FrameMaker, Madcap. If you check through the course, there's a part where we listed technical writing tools. And those technical writing tools are majorly for writing technical documentation, which, as more or less Cap explained, technical documentation can be very, very bulky. So it's not your standard way of writing. It requires to write so many pages. So what these tools help you do is they just help you manage all of those processes and more or less link them up together So an example which images of is the API, but you can check out your help guides. You see in your help guides, there are different parts of it that links up to each other. Okay, so because of the bulkiness of it, tools like Adobe FrameMaker, Markup, and the rest of them enables you to manage all of those processes effectively well. So how many pages is like a standard for technical writing? It depends. From 1,200 above is okay. Could you provide an example of a documentation project where you had to navigate legal and intellectual property math issues related to incorporating third-party code or proprietary technology? How do you ensure compliance with delivering valuable documentation? Okay, I think that question is more towards is for Cap. Cap, is it possible to address that question? That'll be the last question to you.
Yeah, the question is about using Adobe FrameMaker or what?
No. This question is, could you provide an example of a documentation project where you had to navigate legal and intellectual property issues related to incorporating third-party code or proprietary technology? How did you ensure compliance while delivering valuable documentation?
Whoa, this one is great. Compliance. First, if you are to document about a third-party project, you have the access to do that or the permission to do that. But if you are to use the documentation or like use a snippet of something from a third party, I think you have to attribute to that by giving them credit for what you use, right? And that's of compliance. Because you're working for a company, so your company should already have these compliances checked. But if it comes to you doing it, then the third-party company should have a process for you to achieve this. And then you go through the process, talk to your head, and make sure it is approved before you make use of it. I don't know if this answers it because it's just coming from the top of my head.
Okay, I think that summarizes the answer to the question. So if you need more detailed answer, feel free to reach out to me or reach out to Cap on Twitter. Okay, and it's going to more or less give you a more elaborate answer. Okay, but I think the answer you just gave answers the question in a brief. So that will be all. Okay, so we have more or less come to the end of the session for today. And the next session is going to be, so maybe next month. But mind you, next week we're having a Twitter space. So next week we're having a Twitter space with respect to the Tech Write&Earn. And we'll be having a female guest, a female technical writer, coming on board to more or less talk with us on the space. Okay, so be on the lookout for that information and ensure you join. So also remember, you can always reach out to us via the email. You can always send an email. We try as much as possible to respond to all of the emails, despite it can be overwhelming, over more than 6,000 people. And you should know, even if 10% of 6,000 sends an email, that's already overwhelming for just us. Okay, so, but we try as much as possible to give a response to every email within 48 hours. So within 48 hours, you guarantee the response on the email. Okay, so feel free to reach out to us via email if you have any question. If you are part of the community, you can always drop your question in the community and then someone may respond to it. And we would respond to it if we see need to respond to it. And also you can always upgrade to the Pro Access using any of those links that I dropped. Okay, I'm dropping them again. So if you want to upgrade from the free plan, which is 2 weeks, which may have expired, you can always upgrade to the paid version via any of this link. Okay, and that will be all. So any last words, not last words like you're dying, but any last words, Solomon, please give us any parting words. Okay, let me know his last word. It is not my last word in Jesus' name. So any parting
Last
words, community?
parting words to the people is just keep being great, just keep learning, keep earning, and yeah, that's it.
Okay, that's fine. David, parting words for us. Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I don't think there's anything we should go back to. So I think technical writing, the more you write, the better you get at it. And then just like when you start learning web design or web development, and then you go to a website, you notice that your perception of websites kind of changes. You're now looking at websites with the eye of a designer. You're looking at their flaws. You're looking at things they did well. Like the way you approach websites or designs kind of just differ. Whenever you see something that is in line with your work, you are looking at things you can learn from it. It's the same thing with technical writing. You learn by reading other people's articles, seeing how their introduction is flowing, seeing how they concluded the article, seeing how their storytelling is. All of those small details that you would normally overlook if you're not a technical writer is what actually helps you become a better writer. So I would just advise you do more of that. Other than that, I've signed out.
That's fine. So for me, the course is there and it's foundational enough to give you all the foundational knowledge. Don't more or less try to skip the process. You do one part, you write a course, you've not taken the end part and you want to jump into earning. Okay, there are informations that you need to be aware of. So be diligent and patient enough to go through the course and grab all the information that you need to grab. They will more or less make your journey a smoother one and more rewarding. Okay, so
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
I forgot to add Solomon kind of has a book on technical writing. I think he forgot to mention that, so he should probably mention that.
It's being humble. Mhm.
Okay, well, you can check Solomon's page. I think he goes by caps.ts on Twitter. He has, I think he has several books on technical writing and on several technologies. So if you need an in-depth guide, you can also check out his book.
Okay, so that's fine. Okay, so that will be all for today. So see you all in the Twitter space next week. And the next Q&A session is going to be for next month. Okay, so do have a wonderful day and good night, everybody. Okay, and also I would love to get feedback with respect to this. So tweet about your experience, send the feedback. We want to know, we want to have feedback from you guys. So we would love to get feedback. Okay. So feel free to just send your feedback and tag us if possible. So bye everyone and good night to all of you.